So we have a question, and I'm going to try to phrase the question, and if I didn't phrase it correctly, then we'll rephrase it. We have external and internal service. External is to produce results, do things. We have a mission. And we also have the internal, our own self-reflection. What are our motives? Where are our anarthas? Where do we need to improve? We also have the mood of prayer, where prayer seems to be like less active. I'm not going out doing anything, but I'm praying for my own advancement. I'm praying for others. And so there's more of an internal side and more of an external side. And sometimes we see amongst certain devotees, there's a strong focus on the external, producing the results, doing things. And sometimes we see with some devotees, or maybe some spiritual masters and their disciples, there's more of a reflection on the internal. So is the question, where's the balance, or how do we understand it? Yeah. What I've seen with Prabhupada, and I noticed this very early on, before I even had reflected on what balance even means, or even thought of the word of balance in my life, because I was living as a brahmachari, and so I didn't have to think about balance. We just had a schedule, and I did it. But what we saw as younger devotees, that we were very focused on results. And as we got older, we were more reflective about moods and anarthas and being nice to other devotees and be more caring and compassionate, more reflective, chanting japa in a proper mood. It kind of came with age, and I think one of the reasons is because we realized we had neglected that aspect of our lives in the effort to develop ISKCON and push it on, it was just like encompassed us. But I would say personally, I can't speak for others, but in reflection, it was actually easier to push it on than deal with the internal. Because all I had to do was just go out and perform. And a lot of us were performing in services where we weren't actually good at, whatever it was. Speaking, like I could speak even when I was very young. I was very comfortable speaking in a university class. No problem, very comfortable doing kirtan, very comfortable organizing a Sankirtan party. It was very easy for me to do. And so because it was easy, I would naturally be more inclined to it because I could do it and I could get results. Where the internal was more difficult. I had to be reflective, I had to be honest with myself, I had to look at my motives, I had to look at what's going on, I had to look at my own lust and greed and envy and admit it, and that's hard work. And so when we became older, we had the realization that that side was really neglected. And it was neglected because it's harder work. And in my experience with Prabhupada, sometimes you'll see Prabhupada would really focus on the internal. He would say, boil the milk, we have enough devotees, you don't have to make more devotees, we just have to become stronger. And then other times, make the whole world Krishna conscious, we want to save everyone, open more temples, distribute more books. And it seems to be contradictory, doesn't it? And you'll find many instructions like that with Srila Prabhupada that seem to be contradictory. That he's emphasizing one thing, and then later he's emphasizing something which appears to be completely opposite. And what I've learned from Prabhupada, and I'll tell the story, is that he never meant them to be opposite. He always meant two tracks of the train track. And so once Brahmananda Prabhu came to our restaurant in San Diego. And when you're leaving the restaurant, there is a refrigerator with soft drinks. And so we offered him a drink. He said, would you like this drink or that drink? And he said, I'll take both. And then he told the story. He had asked Prabhupada. Prabhupada had given him instruction to do something. But he was already doing something else. So when Prabhupada gave him the new instruction, he said, oh, so Srila Prabhupada, do you want me to stop doing my service and do this new service? And Prabhupada said, no. When I gave you the new service, it didn't mean I wanted you to stop the other service. It meant I wanted you to do both, which is why he said, I'll take both drinks. And there are other instructions like that where Prabhupada gave new instructions to devotees. It was the same thing. So you want me to stop this? No, I want you to do both. So when we're talking about cultivating what we could say the inner life, purifying ourself, and cultivating the mission to save the world, they're never mutually exclusive. And Prabhupada expected us to keep a balance. And so what we realized, and I realized this very, very much more strongly in the last 10 years, the most important thing you can do to help other people is to become Krishna conscious. The most important thing you can do is work on yourself, because from what comes out of you, that's going to be the best help. And if someone asks me, said, well, what do you feel your service is as a spiritual master? I will say my first service is to become Krishna conscious, because the more Krishna consciousness I have, the more I can share with others. And to try to share it without having it, it's going to deplete me, and I don't have a lot to share. So it's just a question of creating balance. But always before going out is going inside. Now, another answer to this question, not really different, but is that by nature, some of us are more self-reflective and some of us are more active, outgoing. And so if you're more active and outgoing, all I would say is you need to spend a little more time in self-reflection. If you're more self-reflective, you just want to make sure you're spending enough time giving your realizations, giving what you get, because it balances. It balances it out. There should always be balance. It's healthy. There's a saying that introverts need to go out and extroverts need to go in. If you're an extrovert, you need to spend time alone. If you're an introvert, you need to go out in public, because it balances you. And so we know when we're giving Krishna consciousness, it helps us tremendously. And we also know when we're doing work on ourselves, it helps us tremendously. And so why do we do work on ourselves? So we can give. And we go out and give, and then we come back and we work on ourselves so we have the strength to go out and give. And I would like to take this into a bigger context of balance in general, because I particularly observed, as I was saying when we began talking, that Prabhupada never focused on one side to the extent that the other side was not important. He talked a lot about celibacy, about brahmachari life, about the dangers of illicit sex. And he talked a lot about household life and the importance of it and how to do it and the glories of it. Appears to be two contradictory things. And if you study Prabhupada's teachings, you'll see. He talks about transcendence and he talks about varnashram. He talks about preaching, he talks about farming. So we have to make space in our head to balance everything. And if we can't make space in our head, then we might want to self-reflect and say, maybe I'm out of balance in some way. Maybe there's something inside of me that's out of balance. Or maybe it's just I don't understand philosophically things in a proper context. So I may be a balanced person, but philosophically, because I don't understand, it's throwing me off balance. So I just wanted to share that I personally observed Prabhupada was probably the most balanced person I ever met. And oftentimes I see devotees that really are a little bit like this and need to be more like this, because this is how Prabhupada was. He could focus on something, but he'd always bring it back. Because this is relevant to some, this is relevant to others. And this is the reality of the world. Now, if you're very extroverted, maybe you want to spend a little more time internal, reflecting. If you're very introverted, maybe you want to spend a little more time in preaching. If your tendency is to be too mental and thinking and analyzing, that's okay, but it should be done in a way that you're churning the ocean of philosophy so you're becoming more enlightened, more inspired, not more confused. Hare Krishna.